Erik Ten Hag gives updates on Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Scott McTominay, Anthony Martial fitness. Erik Ten Hag has provided a fitness update ahead of Manchester United's clash with Crystal Palace. Manchester United take on Crystal Palace on Monday night at 8 p.m, so there is plenty of time for the team news to develop and injury situations to shake out. As it stands, manager Erik Ten Hag has provided a fitness update as Manchester United currently see it, heading into Monday's game. Ten Hag spoke at a press conference on Thursday, following news Jonny Evans and Anthony Martial had been spotted in training. Anthony Martial latest. Erik Ten Hag clarified that Anthony Martial did not complete a full training session with his teammates. He said, Anthony Martial was partly in the team training. It's uncertain whether Martial would be included in the squad for the Palace game, we would say probably not. Jonny Evans latest. Ten Hag said Jonny Evans came through the session, but no decision has yet been taken on his involvement, he is taking the cautious approach. He said, Jonny Evans returned today in the team training and, tomorrow, we will see if it is enough before the 2 days before the game. Scott McTominay latest. Scott McTominay limped off late against Burnley, amid worries from Man UTD pundits who feared it could be serious. The player allayed these fears earlier this week. The manager said he would be subject to a late call ahead of the game, commenting, Scott didn't train so far this week but I expect him back in training on Saturday. Then we will have to see up to the game if he is 100% available or for, only, a part in the game. Bruno Fernandes latest. Bruno Fernandes has played through the last 2 games with a broken hand. Ten Hag said there is an issue with him, although did not specify if it was a different one. Nonetheless, he expects the captain could be involved. He said, we had an issue with Bruno so he is a doubt for Monday, but he will fight to be a part of this game, as we know with Bruno. Never rule him out for any game and he is giving his best to be available. Marcus Rashford latest. Ten Hag does not expect Marcus Rashford to be available, saying he has no positive sign of progress on the forward's recovery. He explained, his issue after Coventry hasn't healed. I can't tell you when he will be back in training. We would expect Fernandes and Evans to be back in the starting lineup, and McTominay on the bench at Palace. United still have a number of long-term absentees, several of who could become available ahead of the FA Cup final. Mason Mount and Sofian Amrabat made their returns in the last game, while the under-21 game taking place on Friday night has no clash with the first-team match, which should see a number of young talents feature in both squads. Manchester United duo return to training ahead of Crystal Palace clash. Manchester United duo Jonny Evans and Anthony Martial were both involved in Thursday's training session at Carrington, with the Red Devils preparing for Monday's trip to Crystal Palace. Evans has featured more than expected for the 20-time English champions during the 2023-24 campaign, turning out for the club on 25 occasions after surprisingly signing a 1-year deal last summer. The Northern Ireland international has struggled with fitness problems of late, though, with his latest issue occurring against Chelsea at the start of April. Evans has missed Man United's last 4 Premier League matches, in addition to their FA Cup semi-final against Coventry City, but he was back in training on Thursday and seemingly has an outside chance of being named in the squad for the clash with Palace at the start of next week. Martial was also present in Thursday's session, with the Frenchman working his way back from the groin operation which he underwent earlier this year. Jonny Evans, Anthony Martial returned to training for Man United. Speaking during his press conference on Thursday, Ten Hag said that Evans was fully involved in Thursday's training session, while Martial was partly in team training. Jonny Evans returned today for team training. Tomorrow we are off and then 2 days until the game. Martial was partly in team training, the manager told reporters. Martial has not actually featured for the Red Devils since the middle of December, as he was unavailable for a period due to illness before it was revealed that he needed to undergo a groin operation. The 28-year-old has only managed 2 goals and 1 assist in 19 appearances for Man United this season, and he is set to leave the club on a free transfer at the end of June. Man United have a fresh fitness concern for Palace clash. Evans also only has a contract until the summer, and he could also depart after 1 season back at the club that he previously represented between 2006 and 2015. Scott McTominay could feature against Palace despite being forced off the field with a knee injury in the latter stages of the 1-1 draw with Burnley last weekend. However, Marcus Rashford has still not recovered from the problem which he picked up during the FA Cup semi-final with Coventry last month. Bruno Fernandes has also emerged as a fresh doubt, with the Portugal international picking up a problem during the game against the Clarets last time out. Tyrell Malacia, Lisandro Martinez, Rafael Varane, Luke Shaw, Victor Lindelof and Willy Kambwala are also still on the sidelines for the 20-time English champions. Anthony Martial and Jonny Evans spotted back in Manchester United training. Manchester United don't play until Monday night, but Erik Ten Hag is putting players through their paces at Carrington, including Anthony Martial. United's last 3 games have been baffling to say the very least. A cup semi-final win is usually cause for celebration, but United throwing away a 3-0 lead against Coventry City and having to come through on penalties left a cloud over the win. United then had 2 come from behind, twice, to beat bottom club Sheffield United at Old Trafford in another unconvincing display. Saturday saw United stumble to a 1-1 draw against Burnley, meaning Erik Ten Hag's side put in 3 mixed performances against clubs likely to be in the Championship together next season. Ten Hag continues to fight for his job and is now looking ahead to Monday's trip to face Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. Palace have been in great form of late, so United will need to be right at it in South London, and a face we haven't seen for a while could be in contention. Anthony Martial in training. December 9, 2023. United were demolished 3-0 at home by Bournemouth in a truly terrible afternoon at a rather wet and miserable Old Trafford. That was also the last time we saw Anthony Martial in action. The Frenchman started the game but went off before the hour mark and hasn't been seen again since. Martial underwent groin surgery in January and has been rehabilitating ahead of a Premier League return. Sky Sports have now shown footage of Martial back in training at Carrington ahead of the trip to face Palace on Monday. Ten Hag expected Martial to be in full team training this week, and he has now made an appearance. Featuring on Monday may be a big ask, but strong displays in training could put him in Ten Hag's plans. We may well see Martial in action for United before the season ends, and the expectation is that he will be leaving this summer. Martial is out of contract at the end of the season, and the time has surely come for him to move on. Inter Milan are understood to be interested in signing Martial, and these final weeks of the campaign could be a goodbye for Martial, 9 years since his arrival. Jonny Evans returns too. The Sky footage also showed defender Jonny Evans in action too. Evans hasn't featured at all since playing just 21 minutes as a substitute in the 4-3 defeat at Chelsea in April. The 36-year-old has featured in 19 Premier League games this season and is actually in the same boat as Martial contract-wise. Evans becomes a free agent this summer, but he has fared well when given a chance to shine this season. The veteran defender will hope to have done enough to earn a new deal at Old Trafford, and his return from injury boosts his chances in that regard. Whether either Evans or Martial are included at Palace remains to be seen, but their returns to training are a welcome boost for Ten Hag. Nothing will take away my focus from FA Cup final and Euros. Captain Bruno Fernandes says he has not thought of leaving Manchester United, is concentrating fully on the remainder of the season, and will not give any consideration about his club future until after this summer's European Championships. Earlier this week, BBC Sports chief football news reporter Simon Stone reported United are willing to listen to offers for virtually all their first-team squad this summer, but Fernandes is not believed to be one of them. It is understood the Portugal midfielder, who has been with United for more than 4 years after joining from Sporting Lisbon, would have to be the subject of a major offer for them to let him leave. Fernandes spoke to DAZN Portugal and,